fitness building. It's all through how little can you eat, how much hunger can you ignore, how much smaller can you get. Women in a lot of ways got sold the recipe for skinny, the recipe for perpetually thin and youthful.
I've heard you say that the health and fitness industry is not actually interested in helping women become healthier or more fit.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Welcome to the Aging Athletically podcast. I am joined by the brilliant Allison Heilig. I'm your co-host, Kelly Moser. Allison, I'm so excited to talk to you about the health and fitness industry, what's going on, all of your thoughts, your hot takes, your perspectives on what is happening in this industry. I want to first ask you, I've heard you say that the health and fitness industry is not actually interested in helping women become healthier or more fit.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I think the easiest way to really conceptualize this is if you look at the way that men's health and fitness and women's health and fitness are marketed, both in the marketing, the way that they talk about it, and the outcomes that are promoted are very different, where I think women in a lot of ways got sold the recipe for skinny, the recipe for perpetually thin and youthful, and men were allowed a wide variety of different things that they could chase, right? They could get bigger, they could get stronger, they could get faster, right? It was all about increasing the capacity and increasing performance in some way, right? And for women, it was all very aesthetics driven. It was the outcomes are about the way that it looks, the way that other people see us. And with men, it was performance, right? It was like, what do you want to build in your life? What do you want to be able to do in your life? Yes, there's an aesthetic component, but I really don't think it's nearly the level that women is. You look at, I grew up in the 90s. I was an 80s baby, and you look at the magazines, and on the men's side, it's like, how to bench twice your body weight, right? And on the women's side, it's thinner thighs in 6 weeks, right? And all of it, the way that we're supposed to reach it is not through the traditional model of healthy fitness building. It's all through how little can you eat, how much hunger can you ignore, how much smaller can you get. There's nothing about increasing our capacity and our performance. It's all very much just driving us towards, by any means necessary, this thin model that a lot of us are just never going to be able to get to that point, nor should we, because again, it's less about the outcome and more about the mechanism for getting there. We are promoting outcomes that require women to not eat or burn more calories or earn their food, right? These are not things that my male clients have ever said to me. And so it really illuminates this difference in the way that's marketed and the different outcomes that we're taught to pursue at a young age.
I see it every time I open my Instagram app.
Yeah.
There's some message that is being shoved down my throat that as a woman I'm supposed to buy into and buy something or, invest in this supplement or that supplement. And we're going to talk all about that.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about your philosophy. Why are you so interested in helping women age athletically? What does that mean to you?
That to me means that we don't have to accept that we can spend our entire lives building something that we're proud of, that we want to enjoy in our golden years, just to spend them sitting on the sidelines of our life, right? There is a way to train our bodies to be more resilient in the face of aging. I'm not for the anti-aging narrative. It's not even possible to anti-age. And if you pursue that, just like diet culture, you will be a consumer forever because you can't ever reach the end point, right? But I do firmly believe, and the evidence supports this, that it's not that we become weaker naturally because we get older. We become weaker because we're deconditioned. And yes, at some point, we're going to die. You're not going to be able to do some of the things you used to be able to do again, but that's way farther out there than most of us think it is. I don't want to retire in my 60s and be like, I guess I just sit around, right? I want to be able to go on really big hikes. I have some clients that they're going to Europe and they're like hiking through the Alps and they're in their 70s.
Amazing.
That's what your retirement years should be for if that's what you want to do. You don't want to get there and go, I can't, right? How horrible would that be?
Right.
Yeah, and being able to do these things with your grandchildren, that's a big storyline in the people that I work with, is their kids and their grandkids are like, we're going to the Grand Canyon for a hiking trip. And my clients are able to just stand up and go, well, I want to go too. Or they're being invited because they're seen as having that potential to go and that they would enjoy those things. And so it's bigger than just working out and fitness and training. It's really about being able to be an active participant in your own life to the extent you want to for as long as you want to.
It's so interesting that you bring up this idea that we're just told that eventually you should start to slow down because your body can handle less. You need lower impact activities. Yes. Is that true? It makes it sound like that's not actually true, but we're actually speeding up the deterioration of our own bodies by not doing some of those more intense things or lifting heavier. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. That's another thing that I think is very different between the men and the women in the way that we're socialized around health and fitness. Just even think about things like dad bod versus mom jeans, and the connotation is very different depending on, right? Men can get older and they can have this second youth. They're running marathons when they're older and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? And for women, that's becoming more and more prevalent. But women weren't even allowed to participate in marathons until the 80s. So we got a long ways to go there. But with the way that men and women are talked to differently, specifically women, because through the perimenopause transition, we have accelerated bone loss as a result of losing our estrogen. That's a big bone component. It's not the reason we lose our bone mass, but it does accelerate that age-related loss if it's not attenuated by something. And that something is impact, it's intensity, it's lifting heavy. So what we're doing to women is recognizing that things are going to get harder for them to hold on to. Men and women both lose muscle at about around the same rate, but women do the accelerated bone loss during that time period. So we know that this population, who's like 50% of us or more, right, is going to be losing bone mass. And the messaging is slow down, take it easy, not too much impact, be gentle. And what we're doing is creating a terrible situation for heart health because they're not doing vigorous enough exercise for their heart health, because walking for a lot of people isn't going to get your heart rate up high enough that it stresses your heart enough to create better heart health. And we're not getting that bone stimulating impact. And women are certainly not lifting heavy. Even a lot of the women that I work with who think they're lifting heavy are not lifting heavy. They haven't really been educated about what that means, right? For women, it's more like more reps. And for men, it's like heavier weights. I only want to do 1 rep and I want it to be a big weight. And the women are like, I want to do a bazillion. I want to get my heart rate up, right? I want to be sweaty. But I don't want it to be a big weight. I want it to be these, little weights over here. And it is it's so mind-boggling to me because I see what women do on a daily basis. They're like picking up toddlers and in the groceries in the Costco haul. And I'm like, and 10 pounds is not, that's not, you can look bigger than that, right? So but it is really interesting because like I said, this one population, we know that the trend is down. And we give them advice that speeds that up. And we wonder why it seems that women are getting more frail when they get older. Well, yeah, because we have never taught them how to not do that. And now the messaging is, you're getting older, so now you need to make it more gentle. And it's like, no, you don't. You need to be smart. You absolutely need to meet your body where it is. Not everybody's knees are in a good place to do box jumps right out of the gate. I'm not advocating for that, but we're talking about generations of women, my generation and before me, who didn't get that education. They're just told, cross your fingers and hope for the best, or like make sure you're light or skinny, or don't eat too much, try to live on coffee all day. And all of these things have made the situation worse. And it becomes like there's the evidence of it. No, that's not what the evidence is showing us. The evidence is showing us we're not giving women the right education around how to preserve these big quality of life markers that they need to work on.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a lot more about the nuts and bolts of how women should be training, what that looks like. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions about, well, how do we know if the weight we're lifting is not heavy enough? So we're going to get into all of the nuts and bolts of it. It might seem obvious to you, but I want to hear from you. For a woman that doesn't adopt this aging athletically mindset and they age the way that we've been told to age since the 90s, paint me a picture of what that woman's life looks like at 60, at 70, at 80, if she makes it that long.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that occur. Some of them are tied to age, some of them are tied to menopause. But because they overlap, we can't pull them apart in the research. So when we look at what happens to women as they get older, we can only really look at what goes on with men to see what might be caused by our hormones changing and what might be caused by age. And there are a lot of similarities between the two. So we know that muscle mass, we start to lose muscle mass, both men and women, about the same trajectory. That's not driven by hormones. And if you go get menopause hormone therapy, it doesn't help. It doesn't slow down your muscle loss.
Interesting.
Right? So it's not driven by hormones. So we know this is more of an age-related thing. So if you lose muscle, you lose not just the ability to support your joints, go up and down stairs, get up from the toilet, pick yourself up when you fall down, right? There's a lot of things that you lose the ability to do, but muscle is a big organ that is regulating your blood glucose levels. It's a storage depot for your glucose, so that when you have too much in your bloodstream, it goes to your muscles to be stored. And then whenever there's not enough in your bloodstream, it pulls from your muscles. It's like a secondary gas tank, right? So you're circulating in your blood, and then you've got stored in your muscles. And then so the more muscles you have, the more capacity you have to store energy that's not in your adipose tissue. It's not in your fat, it's stored in your muscles. So this is part of what endurance athletes do, right? We need to be able to run for hours, and 90 minutes into a run, you're out of what you've just eaten. So you need muscles that are storing that and can efficiently put it in and out of your bloodstream. So you have the system that works to refill and down-regulate the amount of blood glucose you have. So when you lose muscle mass, you lose that ability. Now you have too much circulating blood glucose in your body. Then what happens? Then you start to have changes to your insulin sensitivity, and then eventually that goes down the road to things like prediabetes and diabetes. Wow. Similar thing happens on the fatty acid side, though. That is where we see, again, this inability to shuttle between the two. So you have an accumulation of fatty acids circulating in your blood. Your cholesterol goes up, your triglycerides go up because you don't have anywhere for it to go. There's not an efficient metabolic pathway for things to move through. So you start to have heart health problems. As we age, we're not maintaining the systems of our body to their fullest extent. We start to see illness. So diabetes, high cholesterol, blood pressure, things like that. But you start to see then bone loss. Bone loss is a big one. The figure that I saw last was around 22% of women over the age of 65 who fracture a hip will die within the next year.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've broken my hip. I know. That's another story.
That's my next question.
That's a good story. When you break a hip, I was 30. And it was a really long road, and I lost a lot of muscle in the process because you can't work out. Sure. You can't do anything to protect yourself. So everything gets worse during that time period. And for me, I had plenty of time to recoup what I was lost. But yeah, your quality of life, you break a hip, you might die soon. That's serious, right? And then your ability to get through your daily life, not to mention go do fun things. This is you can't go up and down the stairs. You can't, if you fall or if you need to pick something up off the floor, you can't. I just came here from Washington, D.C. to New York by myself, carried my big duffel bag. A lot of the people I talk to want to be able to retire and travel, but a lot of them can't put their bag into the overhead compartment. They have to tap some stranger to do it for them. And they all feel really bad about that. The inability to just enjoy your life in any way is really what I see from a lot of people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are worried about what the future holds for them because their quality of life is not good. And everything that they've spent their whole life building is they can't enjoy it the way that they want to. And they're spending so much time in their doctor's office, so much time managing the medications that they're on and the side effects of the medications that they're on. It really starts to strip away your agency and your autonomy and your feeling of independence, which I think is something that a lot of us really value as we get older.
And what I love so much about your work is that you're helping us understand that, yes, your body will start to break down at a certain age, but that critical inflection point is actually a lot later than what we've been told. So if you can enjoy another 10 or 15 or 20 years of traveling, of time with your grandkids, of whatever makes you happy, why wouldn't you set yourself up to give yourself the best chance of being able to do that?
Yes.
For the woman who's listening who might be thinking, I've never done this before, I'm too late, there's no way that I can reverse all of those years of skinny programming and the way I eat and the way I move, what would you say to her?
It's not too late. There's a lot of research that shows it's not too late. There is a little narrative going on, or has been going on over the last decade or so, that perimenopause for women is kind of the turning point. It's like you have to have it fixed by the time you reach menopause because postmenopause is awful. But we actually don't see that in the research, that it's not too late, that men and women can, for women, they can pre, peri, and post have the same capacity to increase their strength, to increase their muscle mass. Those things don't change, to turn around your bone density. All of that stuff, we have very well established protocols for doing this, and it doesn't take that much. If you are, and I think the biggest thing to your point in the question was a lot of it starts with that skinny culture. The women who are waiting until perimenopause to do something about it when they get this big medical wake-up call are often women who were spending huge chunks of their lives with this skinny recipe rather than this functional capacity recipe. And they realize that when they go through this transition, or you need to realize that it's not your fault that you were handed a broken model, but it is your responsibility to do something about it when you know better. And it's so simple to make changes that will turn you in the right direction, especially as a beginner. There's so much that can be done as an intervention that is really accessible to anyone, that it doesn't require hour-long workouts 6 times a week. I mean, in some cases, those can actually be counter, right? And it doesn't require huge overhauls of your life, but it does require some specificity with the way that you're training and not just go burn calories or go get sweaty, right? No, you need to have heart health stuff. You need to have bone health stuff, muscle health stuff, right? And if you do that and you create a system that's really supportive of you, you can make huge changes at any age.
That's very encouraging to hear, because I know I live in a house with some women. There are women in my family who do think it's too late, and I'm telling them, no, it's not. Allison, this is great. Now that we've kind of laid the foundation, in our next chat, I really want to get into your story. I want to understand what your vision is for this industry, and we'll go a lot deeper into some of the things we've just started chatting about.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
All right, let's do it.